Hi everybody and welcome to an Age of Fantasy Skirmish battle report. Eternal Wardens versus Rift Demons of War. After a long meeting between the leaders and heroes of Teniras, it has been decided that a small group of soldiers should pass through the Necromancer's portal to scout the other side and gather information that will aid the allies in an attempt to surprise and possibly assassinate the Necromancer himself. But no one knows what will meet them on the other side. It could be a short-lived suicide mission. Nonetheless, a group of Eternal Wardens have volunteered, and the Wardens, led by Warden Knight Zelius, pass through the portal and appear on the other side in what seems to be a large area with rocks and forests. From here, the Necromancer has sent his troops through the portal and deep into Teniras. Everything is quiet, but the Wardens have a feeling that they are not alone. Zelius is a Warden Knight. He is furious, has a tough value of 6 and armed with great weapon. With him he has a Warden with hand weapon, also furious, a winged Warden, furious and flying, armed with dual hand weapons, and a Warden shooter with hand weapon and crossbow. Finally 2 Guardians with spear and the Phalanx ability. All the Eternal Wardens are fearless. And patrolling the area is a War Master. He has a tough value of 3, but he's furious, he's a chosen warrior, he has Warning Cry and Blessing of War abilities. He's armed with great weapon, and with him he has 5 Bloodhounds with the Demon ability. They are all fast, furious, and have impact because of their spiked colors, and they attack with claws. This is a King of the Hill mission. The stone statue in the middle of the battlefield will be the key objective. Whoever controls it at the end of round 4 will be the winning side. The Wardens will use the black dice in this battle, and the Demons will use the red dice. And the roll-off is clearly in favor of the Demons. Before the first round, the Bloodhounds have the Demon ability and they have chosen Scout. That means they can move up to 12 inches before the first round, and the Bloodhounds will use that ability to move closer to the Wardens. They also activate first in the first round, so this could be a really deadly move. Now, let's go to round number 1. And one of the Bloodhounds that moved closer because of the Scout ability will immediately charge the Warden. And with the impact ability, 1 hit is already guaranteed. Now, the Bloodhound will have 3 regular attacks, and it will hit on a roll of 3, so 2 more. A total of 3 hits. The Warden will have to roll 5s to block them. He has a tough value of 3, so he will have to block at least one of them to survive, and he does. So 2 wounds to the Warden. He is still standing though, and he can fight back. He has a hand weapon, and he can attack twice. He will need a roll of 4 to strike back against the Bloodhound. And he rolls 1 good hit. So the Bloodhound will be hit. The hand weapon has an AP of 1, so the Bloodhound will have to roll a 5, and it will roll a 6. It blocks the attack and moves back slightly. So now it's the Wardens, and the first to activate is the Warden shooter. He has a clear line of sight to one of the Bloodhounds here, and he has a range of 24 inches. He can fire twice, and he will hit on 4s. So 1 hit. And it's also AP 1 and rending, and that means the Bloodhound must roll a 6 to defend. And it fails, so it will be hit with one of the crossbow arrows, penetrate the skin, and go down with 1 wound. And the roll on the wound chart is a 6, a precise and deadly shot by the Warden shooter. One of the Bloodhounds is out. With the smell of fresh blood in the air, the next Bloodhound charges against the Warden, and it could attack the Guardian, but he has a spear. So instead, it will try to revenge the fallen bloodhound and attack the warden shooter. Again, impact, and it will hit with all 3 regular attacks. 2 normal attacks and 1 extra because it's furious. And the shooter will need 5s. It's not looking good. Well, 2 defense rolls, and that means the warden shooter will take 2 wounds. He is still alive though, and he can attack back. Even though he's armed with a crossbow, he has a hand weapon, and he can attack twice. He will hit once. It's AP nothing. The bloodhound will defend with a 4, but it fails. So it will take 1 wound. And it could be a very unfortunate move for the bloodhound. It goes down. And again, a roll on the wound chart, too much. The second bloodhound is no more. They seem to have everything under control, and now the guardian will attack the bloodhound who charged in as the first. And he has 1 attack. He will hit on a 4, and he will just miss the bloodhound with his spear. The bloodhound has already fought, but it can still attack. It will need 6s because it's fatigued, and it only has 2 regular attacks, and it's too tired to do anything. But the guardian will have to move back. The War Master senses the danger. He will have to stop the wardens, otherwise the Necromancer will do something to him, possibly far worse than the wardens. So he moves closer. And this guardian moves towards the objective, and he captures the objective. It's now under warden control. And immediately a bloodhound charges in. It will have to pass a dangerous terrain test because of the spear, and it does. And then it only has 2 attacks, because when the guardian is armed with a spear, it will count as it's not charging. It will only have to roll 2s because of the War Master's Blessing of War ability, so it will hit twice. And the Guardian will fail both defense rolls. 2 wounds to the Guardian. He goes down. As the only wardens in this match, they do not have a tough value of 3. And once again, the roll on the wound chart, it's too much. The Guardian who just captured the objective was brutally taken down by a bloodhound. The warden here has already fought the bloodhound once, but he is prepared for a second round. He has 2 attacks, and he will need 6s because he's fatigued. So with all the strength he can gather, he will swing his hand weapon, and he will hit. 1 good attack against the bloodhound. It will have to roll a 5 to shake that attack off, and it does. Once again, the bloodhound is unharmed, and it will fight back now with 2 attacks, also needing rolls of 6. It was a gamble for the warden, but he survives. The bloodhound, who now has fought 3 times, fails all attacks. And from the small forest in the lower right section of the battlefield comes another bloodhound charging across the battlefield. Remember, they are fast and they can move 16 inches. And again, because of the spear, it will have to pass a dangerous terrain test, and then it will only attack twice. And it will hit with both of them because it's within 12 inches of the War Master. And the Guardian will block 1 out of the 2 hits, but fail 1 and go down with 1 wound. Now let's see the roll here. And for once, the roll on the wound chart is good enough to be only stunned. Zelius moves slightly back towards the portal. Is that really the right move now? Instead, he will send his winged warden against the bloodhound here. And the winged warden is armed with dual hand weapons. He needs force to hit. And with a lot of dice, let's see, in the end, it's 3 hits against the bloodhound. And the weapon is AP 1. So the bloodhound must defend with 5s. And already here, the bloodhound fails 1, 2, all of the defense rolls. So it will take 3 wounds and go down. The winged warden could get rid of 1 more bloodhound with this attack. Let's see the roll on the wound chart. It's a 6, and the Bloodhound is smashed by the dueling hammers of the Winged Warden. The demons are reduced to half strength now. They will have to pass morale tests. The first Bloodhound is good. The second one also good with a roll of 4. And then the War Master himself with his pet. He needs a 3, and that was what he got. All of the demons are good, and they will fight in the second round as well. They have the objective, but the Wardens seem to have everything under control at the moment. They have the strength in numbers here before the second round. Let's see what happens. The War Master activates first in round 2, and he charges against the Wardens. He has 4 attacks because of his Furious ability, and he will divide his attacks between the stunned Guardian and the Warden. So that means the stunned Guardian is taken out immediately, and still 3 attacks against the Warden. He will hit on a roll of 2. So the attacks are coming in, but only 1 hit. What a bad roll, but 1 hit and it could be enough. The weapon is AP 3, so a 6 is needed for the Warden, and he is already wounded. And with a roll of 1, the huge axe will penetrate his armor, and he will now have 3 wounds. And that forces him to a roll on the wound chart. It's a 4, so not enough to take him out completely. And now, finally, Zelius steps into action. He also charges, and this time the War Master is the target. He is also furious, so he will attack 5 times, hitting on a 3. And he fails 1, but sends 4 attacks and hits against the War Master. And the War Master must come up with a really, really good defense roll. And he actually rolls 2 6s, so he will take 2 wounds out of his 3 wounds, so he will still be standing. He is tough, and he can now fight back. He has already fought, so he is fatigued. So he will need more 6s to make a difference now. And 1, so he will hit back against the Warden Knight. Can he come up with a great defense roll? Well, quite the opposite. He will take 1 hit back, but remember he has a tough value of 6. But he will not take the War Master down as planned, and he will be forced to step back. Instead, he is now the target of the Bloodhound charge. And again, the Bloodhound here will divide the attacks between the stunned Warden and the Warden Knight. So the Warden is out, but Zelius the Knight will be the target of 3 claw attacks, and it will only need 2s because of the Blessing of War ability. But it will fail 1, so 2 attacks it is. Zelius will need 5s, so he fails both defense rolls, and that takes him to 3 wounds now. And he will turn around and swing his great weapon against the Bloodhound. He is fatigued though, so 6s are needed. And let's see. He is good enough to hit once against the Bloodhound, and the Bloodhound is not able to defend, so it will go down. It took out the Warden, but it paid possibly with its life. We will see here the roll on the wound chart. No, it's a 1, so the Bloodhound is only stunned. And now it's the Winged Warden. He could go for the objective, but he will instead attack the War Master, and that could be the War Master's final hour. He will attack with 4 attacks hitting on 4s, and he hits with all attacks. He will strike the War Master with devastating power. The attacks are AP 1, so the War Master must roll 4s. Can he do it? No, Once again, a rather poor dice roll for the War Master. He will take several wounds, and he will, of course, be smashed to the ground, bleeding. His only chance now is a very low roll on the wound chart. Otherwise, he's out. And it's a 6 without any doubt. He is killed by the Winged Warden. But we still have Bloodhounds left. The Bloodhound controlling the objective will now target the Winged Warden. 1 impact hit and 3 further attacks. 2 of them will hit. So a total of 3 hits against the Winged Warden. He is forced to defend at least one of them, and he needs 5s. And he will defend one of the hits. He will still take 2 wounds though. And he is now able to fight back against the Bloodhound. He is fatigued. Let's see how many of his attacks will hit with a 6. None. He swings his hammers, but hits only air. Still 1 activation left, and it's the Warden Shooter, who was wounded already in the first round. He will advance, and from this position in cover behind the pillar, he will fire his crossbow twice against the stunned Bloodhound. If he hits, the Bloodhound is out, and he does. 1 precise arrow into the heart of the Bloodhound. So it's 3 Eternal Wardens against 1 remaining Bloodhound. But now both forces are down to half strength, so all of them will have to pass morale tests. And we will begin with the Bloodhound. It will need a roll of 3. And it's good. Now the Winged Warden, he can use the Warden Knight's quality to his morale tests, but he will still need a 3, and it's not enough. He is out. The Winged Warden will leave the battle now, and even the odds slightly more. What about the Warden Shooter? He is good, and he will stay. And now Zelius, the Knight, he is also good. Let's go to the 3rd round. The Demons still control the objective, and the Bloodhound will activate first. And it will only have 1 chance, and that is a charge against the Warden Knight. It will charge with 1 impact hit and 3 further attacks, hitting on a roll of 3. So it will need at least 4 hits to take down the Knight. And 1 of the attacks will fail, but it will be a total of 3 hits. Now let's see if Zelius can defend. He has to roll 5s, and he must defend at least 1 of the hits, and he fails all his defense rolls. He will take 3 wounds to the 3 he already has. That will take him to 6, and he is down. He could not withstand the claws of the Bloodhound. Let's see his fate. On the wound chart, a roll of 5 will be too much, and he rolls a 6. Zelius, the Warden Knight, is taken out by the Bloodhound. And the Bloodhound is now alone with the Warden Shooter. What now? The Shooter will have to hit the Bloodhound, otherwise the Bloodhound will attack him first in the next round. He advances to have a clear shot. He needs force to hit 2 shots, and he hits with 1 of them. The Bloodhound must defend 1 arrow now, and this could be crucial. It will need a roll of 5, and it blocks the arrow. The Wardens had everything under control. They were far superior. They had the strength in numbers and everything, and now things have turned around. If they both pass morale tests, the Bloodhound will activate first in the 4th round. But let's see. The Shooter will need a 4 to stay. And he rolls a 4. So the Bloodhound, it will only need a 3. And it's also good. Both of them will pass morale tests. So we will have a round number 4. The Warden shooter is wounded. He only has 1 wound left. The Bloodhound turns around and charges against him. And it will have 1 impact hit and then 3 further attacks. And it will hit with 2 of them. The fate of Teniras is at stake. He will have to roll 5s. And it's a miracle. He blocks all incoming attacks from the Bloodhound with rolls of 5 and 6. He withstands the fury and power of the Bloodhound claws, and now he can fight back, and he will deliver 2 hand weapon blows against the Bloodhound, and it will fail 1 of the attacks and go down. I can't believe it. The Bloodhound is wounded, and it passes the roll on the wound chart. It's stunned, but the Warden shooter still has his activation left. What will he do? He will make a very clever move. Let's see. He will be within 6 inches of the objective, so he can take control of the objective and still be in clear line of sight of the Bloodhound. He can fire his crossbow twice. If he hits at least once, he is victorious. And he hits with 1 of his arrows once again. He has proven to be very reliable, and the Bloodhound is killed with its heart pierced by the arrow. The Warden shooter will now, undetected, gather all information he can, and then turn his attention towards the portal to once again pass through and have a meeting with Faewyn and the other heroes of Teniras. And then they will plan their surprise attack deep into the heart of the Necromancer's castle. Thanks a lot for watching this battle report. Please like and subscribe if you like the content, and I hope you'll join me for future bad reps.